Now reading Crazy Horse's Vision. This story was written by Joseph Bruchac and illustrated by S.T. Nelson. Crazy Horse, they say, was always different. Many children cry when they are born, but not Crazy Horse. He studied the world with serious eyes. "Look at our son," his mother said. "How brave he is." "See how curly his hair is," said his father, Tashunka Woodko. "We will call him Curly," said his mother. Seasons passed. The boy named Curly grew strong and wiry, but would never be tall. Though small, Curly was a leader. When others spoke, he was quiet. When others hesitated, he acted. "Follow me," he would say, and the other boys would follow. A Lakota boy could go wherever he wanted, and Curly wanted to go everywhere. He led his friends to swim in the river and ride far over the plains. They followed him up the highest cliffs where eagles nested. "Be brave," he told them. "If we are brave, we can help our people." When Curly was 11 winters old, his father brought a wild horse into the camp. "Whoever is first to ride this horse can have it," announced Tashunka Witko. Then he and his best friend, High Backbone, went into the teepee to eat. When they heard shouts, they rushed outside to look. Curly was on the back of the wild horse. It could not throw him. When it finally stood still, Curly slid off, his arms around its neck. "Your son has a new horse," said High Backbone. "So it seems," said Tashunka Witko. 2 summers later, Curly joined the men on a buffalo hunt for the first time. Hunting buffalo was dangerous. If your horse stumbled and you fell, you could get trampled to death. To strike a running buffalo with an arrow was difficult. Even the best hunters often had to shoot several arrows to bring down a buffalo. As the riders rode down the hill, the buffalo began to run. The hooves sounded like thunder. Curly's swift horse carried him ahead of the others. Soon he was in the midst of the herd, next to a huge buffalo. Guiding his horse with his knees, Curly drew back the arrow and let it loose. It went straight at the buffalo, and the buffalo fell. When the others caught up to him, Curly was standing by his first buffalo. "I give this buffalo to all those in our camp who have no one to hunt for them," he said. Although Curly's life as a boy was good, things were about to change. Wasatch settlers began to pass through the Lakota land. The army built a fort. They said it would keep peace between the Lakotas and the whites. One day, a white man's cow strayed into the Lakota camp. It trampled through a teepee and knocked over cooking pots. A warrior stepped forward and killed the cow with an arrow. The settler who owned the cow demanded that the army punish the Lakota. Chief Conquering Bear tried to avoid trouble. He offered a mule and 5 horses for the cow. The white soldiers ignored the offer and fired their rifles and wagons guns at the Lakotas. Conquering Bear was mortally wounded. Curly was there and witnessed the terrible thing that happened. He was deeply troubled. As he stood by the burial scaffolds, many thoughts went through his mind. What would happen now to his people? Who would defend them? Curly decided he needed a vision to guide him. Normally, a boy would need a holy man to prepare him for a vision quest. He would fast and purify himself in a sweat lodge before setting out. But Curly felt he had no time. Curly rode away from the camp. He went along the bluffs above the river and came to an eagle catching pit dug into the soft earth. Curly tied his rope between the legs of his pinto horse so it would not wander away. He climbed the hill, stripped off his clothes, and stepped down into the pit. He sat and prayed for a vision. The day passed, and night came. Curly did not leave the pit. He prayed for strength to help his people. A second day and night passed. Without food or water, Curly continued to pray. Wakantanka, he cried. Great mystery, even though I am small and pitiful, I want to help my people. Dawn of the third day brought nothing to his eyes or ears. No spirit, no bird, no animal, not even an insect came to him. All he saw was the sky above and the earth of the pit. At last, late on the third day, Curly climbed out of the pit. He was barely able to stand. Would a vision ever come to him? Was he unworthy? He staggered downhill to where his pinto grazed near a cottonwood. Reaching the tree, he could stand no longer. Then the vision came. It was a rider on the back of Curly's own pony. Yet horse and man floated in the air. As the man rode closer, Curly saw that he wore blue leggings and his face was not painted. A single feather hung from his long brown hair. Behind one ear, a round stone was tied. A red-backed hawk flew above the man's head. Curly heard these words, which were not spoken. Keep nothing for yourself. While the air filled with streaking hail and bullets, nothing touched the rider. Storm clouds rolled above. The thunder sounded, but the man rode on. The man's cheek was a lightning bolt. Spots like hail were marked onto his chest. Suddenly, many Lakotas were all around the rider. Some seemed to be holding him up, where others seemed to be pulling him from his horse. Curly felt hands on his shoulders shaking him. He opened his eyes. His father and High Backbone were bent over him, concern in their faces. Curly looked past them. His pony grazed peacefully, hobbled as it had been before his vision. No rider was on its back, but a red-backed hawk was perched in the top of the bush near his horse. "Why are you here?" his father demanded. "I came to seek a vision," Curly said. Curly wanted to tell them what he had seen, so they could help him understand it. But his father's face was filled with anger. "You were not prepared," his father said. "How could you do this without going into the sweat lodge? How can you expect a true vision without being guided by your elders?" Curly looked over at High Backbone. He, too, was angry. They would not listen to him, so he said nothing. He let them carry him back to the camp. He kept his vision in his heart and shared it with no one. 3 winters passed. Curly had become not a different person, but a better one. No young man was more generous or serious. He spoke even less than before, but when he did speak, his words were always wise and clear. Finally, Tashunka Whitko saw the time had come to speak with his son about his vision quest. Tashunka Whitko sat with Curly in the sweat lodge and listened quietly as Curly described the powerful vision given to him. "The man on that horse," Curly's father said, "is the one you will become. You will be first to defend your people, though some will try to hold you back. As long as you keep nothing for yourself, no arrow or bullet can hurt you. Because of that vision, you must have a new name, so I give you my own. From now on, you will be Tashunka Whitko." The young man, whose name had been Curly, listened to his father's words. His new name fit that vision of a horse dancing through a storm. From that day on, he would be known by that name. His name would stand for the bravest of all the Lakotas, one who always defended his people. In the days to come, all the world would know that name as it was said in English. They would know Crazy Horse. that is the end of this story, Crazy Horse's Vision. And here, we can find a note by the author, Joseph Bruchac, and the illustrator, S.D. Nelson.